I'm just curious, how many parents are in this crowd with children between the ages of 0 to 5? Clap, hand raise, amen, preach, anything. Just let me know who's here. Okay, we got a few parents in here. Now, the whole audience, let's give them a round of applause, because being a parent is no small thing. And the reason why I have I see myself as like an ally, an advocate for parents, because at this stage in my academic career, I am privileged to sit on some high levels of education policy globally. I sit on 3 different major organizations, and we're all looking at this outcome. How do we prepare children to thrive in the future? What does a student in 2030 who's going to be at this level in their academic career, what skills do they need to know? And if you're a parent, that's a terrifying question, because whether we say it out loud or not, we don't really know what education is going to look like in 2030. We are all putting together our best educated guesses, but technology is rapidly changing. There's a buzzword that flows around, 21st century skills. Have you heard it? It's like a selling phrase on a lot of things, 21st century skills. In education, it's like a sexy word, like 21st century skills, and you automatically assume that I know everything when I don't. But here's the thing. What we're saying when we use the term 21st century skills, we're trying to provide you with our best educated assumption on what education is going to look like and what skills students need to have to thrive in the future. And if you look at the World Economic Forum's, this is their review of lifelong learning. And these are the skill sets they feel students need. We have far more here under foundational literacies than reading, writing, and arithmetic. And for the parents, grandparents, adults, stakeholders in the room, if we're honest with ourselves, the education that we're preparing children for is not the education we received. So we're all learning at the same time. But it doesn't stop there. Then we go from foundational literacies to competencies. And we start pulling in skills like we moved past literacy to digital literacy, global competency. Now we're thinking about critical thinking skills and creativity and innovation, which are buzzwords within the larger community in itself. But then we move on to character traits. And if you look at the OECD's Education 2030 framework, they have designed 11 well-being areas. I'm gonna pause so you can look at some of these notable suggestions. These are all areas we feel children should have if they're going to do well in the future. As adults, if you look at this, how many of these skills can you say, you know what, in Hong Kong, we are knocking this out of the park? Like civic engagement, we rocked 2014. We're clear on that. Housing, apartment hunting here is enjoyable. The landlords are the best. Whoever my future landlord is, I love you. Don't raise my rent. And the biggest one, work-life balance. If anyone in the room feels like you understand work-life balance, please let me know. I'll try to get you on stage next year because you have a message Hong Kong really needs to hear. But for the parents who are in the room and you're laughing along, but in the pit of your stomach is this nervousness because you're like, I really have no idea how I'm gonna do this or how much it's gonna cost me to get my child to this skill set. I am here to share with you a research-based, evidence-proven resource that is outstanding. Parent-child reading aloud. And parent-child reading aloud between the ages of 0 to 5 and even further. But during these foundational years, it's a powerful thing. Now, unfortunately, in Hong Kong, a lot of times when I say things about parent-child reading aloud, I get parents that hear me and they think, okay, I get my child to the point where they can read, and then I envision them reading alone, reading very impressive books like Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events at the age of 6, because we're hard achievers in Hong Kong. Like, I want to see them reading dense books and loving it by themselves. And I want to say, actually, that's one outcome, but the power of parent-child reading aloud is more than just the skill, it's the bonding. And if anyone has experienced being read to or reading to a child, there is something, and I'm going to use an unscientific term to describe it, it is absolutely magical if you experience enjoying a story with a child. But that magic is not sprinkling through Hong Kong the way I'd hoped. The theme for this TEDx is Emergence. This was my moment of emergence. I was, in 2014, I was starting my doctoral research in Hong Kong on early childhood literacy, and I've told you a bit of who I am, and I came in after doing a master's in Beijing, so I already knew I wanted to research this area, and I knew I was passionate about parent-child reading aloud, and I'm like, I'm gonna come to Hong Kong, and I heard about the refugee situation, so I'm like, I'm gonna be the Michelle Obama of this movement, and I'm gonna help equality and all of that. It's gonna be awesome. And then I found out the rate of Hong Kong's engagement in early childhood literacy activities. We were last, guys, we were last. And I was like, no. And I had to make an epic decision. I decided right then and there I could spend the next 4 years getting my credentials and then addressing the issue, or I could drop my bucket right where I was and get involved in helping. And that's what I did. I went to parents where they were. If you talk to parents and you ask them why they don't engage, they'll tell you time. So I went to the corporate office. I didn't stop there. I went to the communities. I went to the refugee asylum centers, and I shared everything I knew about effective early childhood literacy. And it boiled down to these 4 things: talk, read, sing, play. Now, if you want to hear more, you got to ask me back, because I'm down to 4 minutes. But I will tell you a little bit more about read. If you can read at least 15 minutes a day, the research says that's the minimum amount of time you need to invest in order to start seeing some outcomes. But I want to go beyond just the 15 minutes. I want to talk to you about the power of reading in a way that ties back into those 21st century skills. One foundational skill is global competency, the ability to collaborate and work well with others. Technology has made the world flat, and there's a high probability that in the future, students are going to work with students from different parts of the world at earlier and earlier stages. What better way to introduce them to the world than through a children's book that presents the child being a child, something they relate to? And who better to teach them that than by someone they love more than anyone in this world? The parent, in the safest place that should be the safest place, the home. And if you allow yourself to engage in this idea of reading aloud with the child, maybe we can do something about this. The PEARLS stands for the Progress in International Reading Literacy Study, and it's issued every 5 years. 2011 was the most recent cycle when I started. As of December 2017, they released the latest results, the 2016 PEARLS. Good news, we moved up 2 spots. If you're looking at the United States and England, no, we're not higher than them. They didn't take the take-home survey, so they're just there to let you know they didn't participate. But we beat Macau and we beat Morocco, woo! We're on our way, Hong Kong. Stories of us. But I tell you this much in all seriousness, we got a great deal of work to do. We do. And whether we are reading aloud with our children, engaging with our children in loving ways, or if we feel like we're being absorbed into the wider pressure of society that's trying to make us think we need to be on the cutting edge of every new class or every new course, our children are following in our footsteps. And this opportunity to be in front of you is to let you know there are people like myself who are advocating for you, who take issue with the fact that you are dealing with a lot of pressure, financially, socially, to raise children that meet this ideal that's always changing. But one thing remains the same. If you are willing to set up a tradition of reading aloud with your child, creating a pathway of storytelling, which opens up conversation, you can build a bridge. We don't know what the world is going to look like. But if you have established a pattern of reading aloud with your children, talking about civic events, using that story time to have conversation, you can pull into that into the future. And when you notice your child may be dealing with bullying, maybe dealing with emotional issues, you can grab a storybook. You can sit down with that child and you can talk to each other through a story. You create a space of dialogue and you remind them of the pattern you already have, so it's not some new thing. They already know this is what we do. So my call to action to you all, in another 5 years, another Pearls exam will come forward. Let's all come back with a story to tell about how we built a bridge that connects our children to a better tomorrow.